All of my books are falling. Shoot, I left something over there. I'm out of breath from setting all this up. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, make sure to subscribe. So as you can see around me, there's some books. Well, I'm going to be talking about my 5-star reads today. I have my Alani Nu Breezeberry. It's my favorite flavor. Grab you a drink and let's get into this video. I have a special guest with us. Ozzy is here with us. He's my little audience right now. So first we're going to start off with fantasy because there's also some new releases. If you're on Book Talk, this one's pretty basic, but it is Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Iron Flame just came out. I love both of these. I gave them both a 5-star. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about Iron Flame. A lot of people loved Fourth Wing, but a lot of people did not like Iron Flame. I do understand what people are saying about it being slow at parts, but it's a fantasy book. It kind of has to go through things and build things up. So I still loved it. Still gave me the 5-star feeling. I highly recommend the series if you don't know what it's about. It is about a girl named Violet, and her mom is the general over their entire country, and it's kind of like Divergent if you've watched those movies or read those books. There's like 4 or 5 schools that you can go into. Violet has trained her entire life to be a scribe like her father was. Last minute she is forced to go into the Writer's Quadrant by her mom, and you follow along as she's building new relationships and just surviving through the Writer's Quadrant. Next is the Cruel Prince trilogy. I'm pretty sure I started giving it a 5-star in the second book. If you plan to read these, don't go into it thinking it's a romance. There is a little bit of romance, but it's not a ton. It's not going to be like ACOTAR or anything like that. This is about Jude. Her and her twin sister and her older sister basically get taken by the older sister's biological father and taken into the Feyland. Jude and her twin sister are human, so they're living in the fairyland. You're following along as she's training to be a warrior, getting bullied by the Fey kids, and basically just going through all that. This is the first fantasy I read, and that might be why I kind of fell in love with it. Kind of slow in this book, and this is a lot of political fantasy, but I honestly like that stuff. The romance in this series, it is little, but it's such a like slow burn that like you eat up every single crumb, and I think that's why I loved it so much. And once you get to this one, it's so good, and like at the end I cried. The ACOTAR series will forever be my favorite series. These are my favorite books, and look how floppy this book is. Just gotta take that in for a moment, but I read them at the beginning of this year and I just instantly fell in love. I love Sarah J Maas's writing. I love all the characters. I love all the relationships. It's just so amazing, and when I read these books I feel like I'm transported into another world. They hold such a dear place in my heart. I chose this one specifically because this one and Aqua War are my favorite. I would say ACOTAR is a 5-star for me, but it's just a 5-star in a different way. I don't know if that makes sense, but it is in a different way. I didn't know anything going into this series, and I was shocked by every single twist. I did not see it coming. Staying on Sarah J Maas, my next favorite series is the Throne of Glass series. I definitely think you need to start with ACOTAR, but after that, move on to Throne of Glass. It is a long series, but it's so worth it. I didn't really rate first 3 books very high, but once I got into Air Fire, I really loved it. Air Fire was a 5-star book for me, but my favorite was Queen of Shadows. So many things happen, so many cute relationships. I think about it every day. I love it so much, and I highly recommend. The Throne of Glass series follows Selena Sardothian, and she is Adarlan's greatest assassin. One day she ends up getting caught and she's sentenced to prison. Then a year later the prince comes to her and asks her to compete in this competition to be the king's champion. Follow along as she's competing in that competition and all the twists and turns that this story takes. I personally read Assassin's Blade third. A lot of people read it first. I honestly don't know. Probably would reread it the same order that I did, just because I think if you read Assassin's Blade first, you might not really understand what's going on or understand any of it. And I'm getting Crescent City in soon, and I cannot wait to start that series. So next we have Dance of Thieves and Vow of Thieves. There's also a series that comes before this, the same main character, and I haven't read those, but I wish I would have read them before I read the series. Okay, so this one follows Kazi, and she is in the Queen's Premier Guard of her lands, but she has to go to this other kingdom where all of the people think they are the first amongst all kingdoms. So she is on a mission to prove herself for the queen. There's so many cute things and twists and turns, the enemies to lovers. The male character in this, Next is the Shatter Me series. You've probably heard this a ton. I feel like a lot of people read this in middle school or high school. This one is more of a dystopian book. Lastly, on fantasy, the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, specifically the Ballad of Never After. It is a 5-star series, but this is my favorite book out of all of them. The Caraval series comes before this, and I do think you need to read it before. I think it helps you understand the main character Jax a lot more. She finds out that her one true love is set to marry someone else, goes crying into this church that is for the King of Hearts. He finds her there, makes a deal with her that if she gives him 3 kisses to anyone at any time, then he will help her get her true love back. Okay, so next we're going on to thrillers slash mystery. I only have one that is 5-star. I just haven't really been in the mood for them. The one I have is If We Were Villains. I love this book. It's dark academia and it has a lot of Shakespeare stuff in it. I read Shakespeare in high school, so I did understand a tiny bit of it, but I think you can kind of just ignore all the Shakespeare stuff. Obviously, if you know Shakespeare and all the stories, it'll mean a little bit more to you, but the ending, I was thinking about it for days and I like looked up all these things trying to figure out what the end meant. Really good, and I really liked it, especially if you want to try out a dark academia. It's about these groups of kids. They're performing in a Shakespeare play. I think it's Caesar, and one day something terrible happens, and so you're going through the book trying to figure out what happened, who did it, why. Next is on to romance. So first we're going to start off with Emily Henry. I haven't read all of her books, but I have read People We Meet on Vacation and Beach Read, and both of these are 5 stars. I love them so much. Her writing is so good, and especially for the summertime, it's the best vibes. I'm not gonna lie, I do like People We Meet on Vacation more than Beach Read. I feel like that's an unpopular opinion, but both of the banter in these were good. I'm pretty sure in this one you're like trying to figure out what happened the entire time. I don't really remember in this one if you This one's Childhood Friends to Lovers, I guess, or maybe even Second Chance. This one's kind of like Rivals to Lovers. Better than the movies. You probably heard this one a lot. A lot of people love this one. I think this is just like a classic rom-com you need to read. Enemies to Lovers, Childhood Friends to Lovers, kind of. Liz and Wes have lived across from each other their entire life. Wes picks on Liz all the time, and so she's had a crush on this other guy named Michael, I believe, her entire life, and he comes back into town, and so she's asking Wes to help her get a date with Michael. Next is November 9th. I'm not really like a huge Colleen Hoover fan. I do like this one. I haven't read a ton of her stuff, but I really like November 9th. It's kind of like so outlandish that I just did not see it coming. I was like, okay, and I still thought it was cute. I just love the idea that they come together every November 9th. Lastly, we have Love and Other Words. This one is Childhood Friends to Lovers. This one is perfect for the fall winter time because it kind of gives you those cabin vibes. Goes from past to present, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so you get them when they're really young and first meeting. I think something has happened. They no longer talk anymore, but they meet again, and so you're trying to find out what happened. And I especially love when they're kids because it just kind of makes me like think back when I was a kid, I guess. So those are all my 5-star reads, but I do have some TBR that I think are going to be 5-star, so I'm going to show those. So I just got these books. A lot of people have given the 7-Year Slip 5 stars, so I think this one is going to be on there. I don't know about Love Theoretically because I'm not a huge STEM fan, and I know these are STEM romance, so we will see. Then we have Things We Never Got Over. I think this one's gonna be a 5-star. I just have a feeling it is, and I'm probably gonna be reading this really soon. I'm so excited to start the series. And then lastly, we have The Stolen Heir, which is another like spin-off series from The Cruel Prince. I've heard some people like this more than The Cruel Prince. It follows the younger brother named Oak, and I'm excited to see like how Oak is when he's older. Super excited to read these books. Those are all my 5-star reads that I've read so far this year. Let me know out of any of these books which one is your favorite. Again, make sure to subscribe. All my socials are linked down below, and I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you when I see you.